Hello and welcome viewers. You're watching Newsx and I'm Vaishali Kohli. Now, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has told the UN Human Rights Council, our fence shall persist as long as needed. Araghchi spoke at an emergency session of the UN Human Rights Council called by Iran, China and Cuba on the Israeli-US attack on a school in Minab that killed 175 children and teachers. Joining me on the broadcast is Major General PK Seigel. Major General Seigel, welcome. And what would you like to say about Araghchi's statement?
This was assumed a very dangerous proposition. Now, as far as Iran is concerned, they are also recruiting children above the age of 12 years to do non-combatant roles, including patrolling in checkpoints at the street level, etc. This clearly indicates that should America go ahead and try and invade Iran, they're going to be suffering a huge amount of attrition. I think it will be stupidity of the highest order. The war will continue for a much longer duration should America put ground zone troops. And if they had any intent of doing so, no commander worth his salt ever gives his operational plans in advance. Trump has made a very stupid mistake of saying that he would try and capture the island. Under the circumstances, the security of that island has been strengthened by an order of magnitude. Very many Israeli drones, as well as the missiles, are pointing towards that direction. The moment the Marines land up, hundreds of body bags will fly back. That notwithstanding, people within America are absolutely opposed to putting troops on ground. But as far as Israel is concerned, Saudi Arabia is concerned, and UAE is concerned, they're coaxing America to put troops on ground and not to give up, continue the war till such time the so-called evil is completely eliminated. And the so-called evil is Iran. As far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, Saudi Arabia feels that an undefeated Iran would be a still greater threat to Gulf countries than previously. Iran has shown absolute and total resilience so far, and under no circumstances are they going to give up. Their arsenal seems to be unending. In fact, the quantum of drones that they manufacture on a daily basis is believed to be in terms of hundreds of these drones, and Russia also has shipped a very large quantum of drones which are likely to reach there either end of this month or in the 1st of April. Under these circumstances, the war is becoming increasingly dangerous. Not only is the world going to suffer enormously because of energy crisis, the worst crisis is the gas, and even that, very many countries will start suffering from food scarcity in a very major way. Because 35 to 40% of the urea and the fertilizer comes from this area. India too will start suffer. Secondly, 45% of the world's helium comes from this area. And as far as India is concerned, helium is a very important ingredient for our semiconductor industry. The semiconductor industry also will get affected in a very major way. Then as far as 45% of India's drug manufacturing, we have become the hub of generic medicines. 45% of the raw material comes from this area. Almost 40 to 45% of the plastic industry raw material comes from this area. All this will be affected in a very major way. And hypothetically, if the war was to stop today.
All right. I will come back to my guest. Now, in the latest, as per a statement by Iran's media, Iranian Revolutionary Guards have urged civilians in the region to leave areas where US forces are stationed, saying it is duty-bound to attack American forces wherever we find them. The IRGC's Public Relations Office said in a statement carried by Tasneem News Agency, "We strongly recommend that you immediately leave areas where US forces are stationed so that you're not harmed." And with that, I'd like to go across to Mr. Manish Gupta, who's an economist, who's joining me. Mr. Gupta, how do you see this statement? And because you're an economist, in the larger scheme of things, what do you see happening when it comes to fuel prices and all of the industries that have been affected?
Listen,
All right, we're unable to establish that connection at the moment. But we have, of course, Major General PK Seigel, who is with me on the broadcast. Major General Seigel, this development, of course, the latest that's coming in. Now, there's a statement that has been issued by the IRGC. What would you like to say?
This clearly indicates that as far as Iran is concerned, Iran is going to target all those assets that belong to or that they are connected with America. They've told individuals or people in those areas within Iran and outside Iran to leave away from all those places, as they could be targeted by America or Israel, and also they could be targeted by Iran. Iran is hitting every single asset of America and its allies in the Gulf countries as well as Israel. And similarly, any asset of America, virtually there are no assets of America within, but those targets which America is hitting, like energy sources, like desalination plants, like the nuclear installations, or their communication centers, etc., or even the military headquarters, etc., they're telling the civilians to leave that area, as those areas are going to be under vicious attack from America as well as Israel. So it cuts both ways. In both ways, they are wanting the civilians to ensure that they suffer the least amount, both within their own country as well as the Gulf countries. And that's a very, very good step that they're taking to cut down the attrition of civilians. Because in any war, the worst sufferers are the civilians, particularly the women and children. Even here, out of about 2,000 odd people who have so far been killed in Iran, almost about 1,400 to 1,500, that is almost good about 60 to 70% are civilians and not military personnel. As far as the IRGC is concerned, IRGC categorically says that they suffered only 500 to 600 casualties over the last 27 days. Hence, to cut down on the civilian attrition and the civilian casualties, they are advising people to shift away from these areas. Back to you, Vishali.
All right, Major General PK Seigel, please stay on with me. I'll come back to you. Now, the government of India has cut the special additional excise duty